Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. Hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving weekend. We had a ton of stuff happening. We had a ton of stuff today that happened with the Braves. We're going to discuss later in the show. Rivalry week was just about as insane, that Iron Bowl. We're going to get all into it. We might even preview a little bit of the SEC Championship. We'll be talking about that all week. But we're going to start off the show with the first place Atlanta Falcons. They get the win over the Saints. They are 5-6, but they are somehow first place. And this NFC South has turned out just about the way that we thought it would. The Saints have really struggled. You saw a team, I thought, and I've watched a lot of Saints game, but you don't really get an idea until they're playing your team of what they're struggling with so much. And they're struggling with a lot of the same thing. Derek Carr can't make plays in the red zone. He makes mistakes in the red zone. They're a mistake-prone team. Defensively, they're injured. You see Marshawn Lattimore on IR. They had more guys go down with injury in that game than I think I've seen in a game in a long time. And it shows you how physical it was. And the Falcons are the more physical team, and that's why I believe that they won the game. Let's start off with Desmond Ridder, though, because that's going to be the hot topic. He gets his first start. And I know some people will be like, oh, he was excellent. Oh, he was terrible. The reality of the situation is he was somewhere in between. He made a couple of plays with his legs. He made that great throw to Bijan Robinson. He made plays where you're like, oh, this guy could be it. Then he also made two interceptions that were just unacceptable, especially the one in the red zone where he overthrew the guy. Matthew is right there. It's a touchdown. Just in that situation, when you have a zone coverage and the safety sitting behind, you cannot overthrow that guy. He overthrows them. Bijan made a little mistake on the play as well. It wasn't all Ritter's fault, but still, it was a poorly thrown ball, and it was just another red zone turnover. So it was really, I'm not going to sit here and praise him. I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo. All I can say, it was just more of the same.
Yeah, I think that last part that you said, it was just more of the same. And I'm sitting here in the same exact place I was last week and the week before. The Falcons have to be in the market this offseason for a quarterback. Desmond Ridder just hasn't improved at a rate that should give confidence to this coaching staff and front office that he's the guy. He's making the same exact mistakes from the season opener to today. He is turning the ball over, and it's not just turning the ball over like at midfield. It's happening in critical points in the game, in the red zone. That is like the worst thing you could possibly do as a quarterback, and it has been a consistent theme this entire season. Now, again, we have to give credit where credit is due. He made several critical throws on third downs, as well with his feet, as you mentioned. So there are good with the bad, but the fact of the matter is things haven't changed. This is the same guy from what seems like from the first game to his the 11th game. So I don't see anything, to hang your hat on for Desmond Ridder, other than maybe, I guess he hasn't lost that confidence, which is certainly a thing in quarterbacks you want, but that is the only thing. There has not been, it's been, incremental improvements. It hasn't been enough improvement for the Falcons to sit here and say, we got our guy in the building. I'm afraid that the Falcons keep winning games because of, thank the Lord, we're running the ball again, and good defense is going to trick this coaching staff and front office into thinking Desmond Ridder is the guy. I pray that doesn't happen. And it looks like, I'm afraid to say it looks like we're trending in that direction, that Desmond Ridder will be the guy in 2024. But those other two parts, running the football and defense, that's how the Falcons are going to win football games. You want to talk about a home run free agent signing, Jesse Bates, that's probably an understatement. I mean, that guy has been the best free agent signing in my lifetime as a Falcons fan. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You could go to Alex Mack and all those, but Jesse Bates is a difference maker day in, day out, every week. He won that game for the Falcons. I mean, pretty much single-handedly won that game, pick six, the forced fumble. Both of those drives were going to end in points for the Saints, whether it was a field goal or a touchdown. Those are potentially 20-point swings. If they score two touchdowns and you take Jesse Bates' pick six off of the board, that's 20-point swing, all from one player. I mean, he's absolutely unbelievable. And Bijan Robinson, we finally give him the football in the red zone and good things happen. It seems like that was the hardest thing for Arthur Smith to do, was just turn around and decide to give, or Desmond Ridder to turn around and give Bijan Robinson the ball in the red zone. And look what happens. He scores touchdowns, comes away with one of his best performances of his young career, 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards total. That's the formula for Falcons winning football games, is running the football, keeping Desmond Ridder, kind of taking the ball out of his hands and leaning on your defense. And that's what they did on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little worried about the defense as a whole. I think, with the Grady Jarrett injury, you saw a lot more of the problems with the defense. There were pressure on times. Ebiketie made a big sack. He's turning into a solid player for the Falcons, but the Saints still racked up 400 plus yards of offense. They had 300 yards early in the third quarter, but they did the bend but no don't break, and a really bend but don't break. They didn't give up any touchdowns. And Jesse Bates, I mean, you could sit here and say legitimately the Falcons could be 3-8 if it wasn't for his performance in week one when he forced 3 turnovers against the Panthers and those 2 turnovers he forced against the Saints, both against divisional opponents. I will say the Falcons ran the ball terrifically. I think that's what I think a lot of fans, at least I was, frustrated when we even made Desmond Ridder throw the ball in the red zone. It's like, dude, we are churning out 8, 9, 10 yards a carry and then didn't stop. I mean, you think about that final drive. I mean, they just said, hey, we're going to run it down your throat. Literally 9 runs and 1 pass. And the 1 pass was not a very long pass. And they ran it down the throat, ran out the clock, kicked the field goal that basically clinched the entire game. And it was nice to see. Parker Hesse definitely had an impact on the game. Him coming off IR had an impact on the run game. There were a few. I mean, it was a sloppy game from both sides. But yeah. I'm never going to apologize for beating the smelly Saints. This was actually the first time the Falcons have beaten the Saints in Atlanta since 2017. So that's pretty remarkable. First time they've beaten them in the last 2. They didn't beat them in the last 2 seasons. Or they did beat them. I guess the 2 seasons. Arthur Smith's first season on the road. That was the last time they beat him. So I'm never going to apologize for beating those guys. It's nice. It's nice that you're in first place. There's still questions about the defense without Grady Jarrett. There's still questions about Desmond Ridder. They play the Jets next week, which should, I mean, if they lose to the Jets. But with this team, like, there is no moment. Like, they have to come out with that same – the one thing that they had in this game that they didn't have in a lot of the other games was just straight up intensity. And if they play like that, they can handle most of their schedule. But there can't be any lapses because this team, like we've said many times, is not good enough to like just play average and win the game. Like, they have to play a good game every week, their style of game, and they can beat the rest of their schedule. But there can't be any lapses and oh yeah, like we're good. Like we just beat the Saints. The Saints aren't good. Like there's a reason. The Saints basically gave us those games with those turnovers. Yeah. So there can't be any letdown. It's got to be the same intensity next week on the road against the Jets, a Jets team that's probably fed up of hearing all the crap. Like they're probably going to be playing hard. Like they're still playing hard. They might not have a quarterback. Tim Boyle might be starting for him, and Zach Wilson might be the worst number 2 pick of all time. But like you can't go in sleepwalking into that game, and they can't lose that game because there's things. You look at Seattle now in the wild card, like they play Dallas next week. They lose. If the Falcons can win next week at the Jets, not only do they position themselves well for the division continually, but they also position themselves that maybe if they do drop one of these games, they could sneak in the back end on a wild card. So they got to take care of business. And I got to see that intensity on a week-to-week basis for the rest of the year. There's no excuses. You're playing for a postseason berth.
Yeah, the NFC is so much worse than the AFC. And we're in the worst division in the worst conference. I mean, there's no excuse not to. And you know what's crazy is 8 and 9 can win you the division, and 8 and 9 can probably sneak you into the playoffs as a wild card team. That's how bad this conference is. So yeah, you said it. I mean, the Jets. This is the NFL. There are no easy games. I know that everybody wants to laugh and joke and, make fun of the Jets, and it is fun to do. I do think I join in, but this is a good football team. That defense is legit. I mean, that is one of the best defenses in the league. And again, Desmond Ridder's going to have to protect the ball if the Falcons want to win this game. It's going to be in New Jersey, so weather is certainly a fact. It could be a factor. And, it's just going to make for another grimy game that the Falcons, that's their kind of style. Just muck up a game and, try and win on the backs of your three-headed monster and Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Cordero Patterson. Speaking of Cordero Patterson, he had his best game of the season on Sunday, and it's good to see him back in the fold in Arthur Smith's offense. Yeah, but I mean, this Jets team is not anything to, write home about, but it's certainly no cakewalk, especially for a middling team like the Falcons. I mean, this is a 500 ball club through and throughout until they change the quarterback position. That's what this club ceiling is, a 500 club. You can't go 500 now, so you'll be 8 and 9 or 9 and 8. So that's the only outcomes I see for this Falcons team in the rest of the season. But that gets you in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's a game like the Jets that can be the difference in your 8, 9, and 9 and 8. You got to win this game, and you got to play with the same type of intensity. Coming up after the break, the Braves lose out on another starter. Sonny Gray is heading to the Cardinals.